Okay, well maybe I misjudged him and didn't realise he was Keffels now. Should Keffels replace me? There was also an inflation thing with there's some fat, swollen up, inflated thing with Pyrocynical's little TV head.
Or get the medication to start, you know, the funny woman pills or whatever.
Funny woman pills. But then you've also got the case of other trans people defending Chris purely because they are trans.
I've never seen, I'll be honest, I've never seen a single person do that.
Guys, I've got to be honest with you here. I actually quite like NerdCity. I know he's a bit of an autist and annoying and lame and whatever. I actually quite like him. I think he's a funny guy. I think his autism is very funny and he gets him into all these little funny dramas and stuff. Because of this, I actually had a little scroll through the Pyrocynical subreddit trying to understand what had happened in the drama. And that I wish I hadn't done, because I saw man-made horrors beyond your comprehension, okay? It's very cringe. Anyway, credit to Creeman, because I actually watched some of his stream yesterday to try and help piece it together, and I didn't have any idea, even after watching that, exactly what was going on. But he was a part of the inspiration for this little segment we're about to do. So, first of all, we've got these leaks, which I'm guessing is from the TBH Discord server. Uncle Ben, I believe, is Colossal. NerdCity is obviously NerdCity. Right? Have I got this correct? Reddit is a bunch of fatties with no life experience, bouncing the mental illness off other equally miserable people. Sure, I agree with that. So no, their opinion is utterly worthless. Yes, Colossal is correct about this. Utterly worthless, not worth engaging in, not worth paying attention to. Completely agree with that. I'm not a mod on Pyro's gay little subreddit, so I can't delete the messages for you. But you'll notice they hate me there too, and cry about me all the time also. So no, I literally couldn't care less. We just laugh at them. Colossal is correct. Yes, that is right. Redditors are going to hate you. Okay? Very rare that Redditors actually like you, unless you're a Redditor yourself. Generally speaking, Redditors are not worthy of human consideration and are best ignored in the vast majority of circumstances. Occasionally, they can post enlightening information like a thread or some further information in a response. But honestly, I would just ignore a lot of what Redditors say and not pay it any heed, okay? So, NerdCity says, it's r/pyro, not r/all. We're at war. This is the light response. Talking to just our patrons. I'm getting angrier every day as I think about him. About Pyro. Is that right? So he's bothered about Pyro's subreddit. And so he's angry at Pyro about it. Is that ridiculous? This guy is something else, dude. Huge difference between viewer base and Reddit users. Can't you ignore it? Good question. What a fucking coward. Just sitting there reading it in the shadows like Michael Jackson. I'm finished. I hate the lack of everyone on main about the podcast. Okay. How can you dislike this guy when he posts bangers like this? This is great. Yes, it's very cringe. He's getting upset with Redditors.
But how do I make money off depressed people?
Hey.
Just say it. This is the most inappropriate thing Pyro has ever done.
Very true. Very true. The fervently messaging some guy who turned out to be a minor to do your furry fart fetish roleplay. That I can overlook. Not moderating the subreddit correctly. That is something else. What? Who is sitting in the shadows? I think he's on about Pyro again, not moderating the subreddit. Pyro on his subreddit. Dude, that is so good, dude. How can I be upset at this guy, man? That's a banging post. That's so funny. That is the quintessential Michael Jackson image. And if some reports are to be believed, apparently that's not the only... Come on, dude. He is very autistic, yes, and he overreacts and he shouldn't care about what Reddit thinks. But if it brings about posts like this, I say, stand back. Nerd City, stand back and stand by, okay? Now, I've got to be honest with you. I said this about the previous Reddit stuff, and obviously going off on Pyro for not moderating the Reddit is gay. I don't think, getting upset with someone for not correctly moderating their community is very lame. I don't agree with that. That's stupid, okay? But if his action was solely against the Redditors, I would be like, yeah, Redditors are really annoying and cringe, and they deserve to get called out more so than they do, probably, okay? So anyway, obviously very gay sentiment underlying it, but some funny posting here. At this point, he still doesn't know, retard. His subreddit has been doing this hating stuff for years, so true. I'm surprised people are surprised it's a thing. Getting mad at Pyro's Reddit for being spurgs is like getting mad at water for being wet. Well, okay. Well, maybe I misjudged him and didn't realize he was Keffals now. Should Keffals replace me? I don't use Reddit and I'm a much happier person for it. Keffal? What? What's the Keffals reference about? What the hell? Yeah, man. Okay. I don't understand the Keffals reference. Okay. Here we go. Here's Colossal trying to talk some more sense into the situation. If Pyro starts censoring his gay little subreddit... Oh my god, Colossal is so base, man. Oh, that's true. Yeah, he has said some pretty wacky stuff. The stuff about Dr. Disrespect was pretty whack, I agree. Then they're just going to do it more. If he nukes it, they're going to go somewhere else and do it there in greater fervor. I think this is just bullying 101. My advice is simply to just not care what some fat little piggy has to say to the other fat little piggy on a website where they get $0 for saying it. This is a great mentality, right? These Redditors are all talking their shit for no money. Do you know what I mean? That's actually a really good way of looking at it, right? They're posting for free. They're making content for free. For Reddit. They're moderating. They do it for free. The Jannies do it for free. Wise words, clown. If any opinion comes from Reddit, it's grounds for ignoring. Talk behind the scenes. This stuff is getting sent to drama YouTube. Oh, yep. Guilty. Guilty as charged. I do like how I just checked the subreddit now and Bird posted something else to farm some extra karma. So Pyrocynical's getting involved now as well. Dude, when I was scrolling through the subreddit, there was one clips and it was just farting noises. And that was it. There was also an inflation thing with there's some fat, swollen up, inflated thing with Pyrocynical's little TV head. It was crazy. Well, I'll show you the relevant posts that I found, of which there were 2 that I could see in all of that mess in a sec. And then I guess we got this. So this is the further statement from Nerd City. Disagree on sentence 1. Your community reflects your personality or tries to correct it like on a spectrum. A healthy community tries to support you. They either think they're attacking me in support of Pyro, or they know he thinks differently and are trying to control him. I just think once it gets to a certain size, there's some element of your community that are going to say things that are completely the opposite of what you're interested in or what you think about something. Because people are going to come in that don't even necessarily watch your content or participating in your community to that level. So yeah, I just don't really care that much about people's community. Oh, your community's doing that. So what? Dude, what is a community really when it comes to this stuff? Like, it's more so the chat and stuff like that. That's the thing that for me is more of the community. The Discord is, the Reddit or whatever. Not that I use Reddit that much. But those are the places where other people can kind of come and congregate that aren't even engaging with your content. So often it can be, completely beyond what you're even thinking of. Do you know what I mean? So I just don't get this idea of like the Reddit reflects you in some way. This is truly the Ant-Man and the Wasp quantum mania. How so? What do you mean? You retards and cowards are out of your depth trying to moderate trolls. I showed you how to clean up Discord and it's better. The same people are using the other platforms, so you're pretending you can't figure it out. Oh, you better not be calling me a coward, TBH. Oh, he said the name of the podcast. Roll credits. You're saying it's a fan base problem more than a subreddit problem. You don't moderate your hellscape of a Discord and have no idea what people say on it. So that's negligent at the least. Oh my god, dude, this is such fucking cancer, dude. Bro, the moderation should be to the rules. That's it. Let people speak on what they want. I don't know, dude. I've got this kind of idea that people can say whatever they want as long as it doesn't break the rules and put the overall platform at risk. What does it matter, dude? What some fucking shitter says on a Reddit post or a fucking Discord, okay? The only concern you should have is if you can monetize it if you're interested in doing it. That's it. Nerd's point, if that you're toxic and drop the N-word, then your fans will likely feel comfortable. No, it's not. No, he's not. He's not saying that at all. He's not saying that at all. Where is he saying that? He's talking about beyond that. People in communities that often are inflated by people that don't even engage with your content in a meaningful way. It seems to be this to me. Like he's complaining at fucking Colossal for not correctly moderating his subreddit. This is dumb. Okay. So these are the only posts that I could see on the Pyrocynical subreddit that were relevant to this situation. Obviously, take it with a pinch of salt because, you know, I don't know if stuff's been deleted and shit like that, but these are the public posts still available that I could find posted in the last couple of days, okay? Unless I got distracted by some fucking insane shit. Like some weirdo thing. There were lots of memes about inflation. You know, oh, how does Pyrocynical feel about inflation going up in the UK and shit like that, you know? You're making all this public when we were sorting in private. When you wanted to ban Patreon users with total impunity, I specifically warned you that as a result of that, they would flock to Reddit, Twitter, and Splinter servers and continue what they were doing to you, but with far greater fervor. You said you didn't care and were fine with that, but now you're not when that prediction came true. Pyro might be a little coward, but there's not much he can do about his socially inept fan base and mentally ill subreddit. Dude. Yes! The subreddit is mentally ill. That's true. That is 100% correct. Without doubt. Words. Maggot then. Yeah, he's just right about this. What's this? I haven't really listened to the TBH podcast since the biggest scammer episode. Okay. And yeah, this is the post that's been doing the rounds then. So this is the one that's been doing the rounds where he's saying, I'm not recording until they start deleting lies from Pyro subreddit at the very least. But ideally, they should speak up and discourage it. But that's too much to ask, so censorship at minimum. So he's saying that unless this subreddit gets fucking controlled, he's not going to record episodes. That's so gay, dude. Like, I thought it was funny when he was going against the Redditors, because you're then going against the individuals that are saying this stuff. But holding your podcast hostage because one of the hosts isn't moderating the subreddit to your satisfaction is gigaspurg behavior. Yeah, I agree with you. Look, I'm not going to show you. This subreddit is full of complete degenerate freaks. But who cares? Just ignore it. You can literally just ignore this shit. I just don't understand why there's so much focus on this cringy subreddit. Oh, this is the same post again. So guys, we did it. We reached NerdCity leaving TBH. This is what I saw on Creeman's stream, which piqued my interest, this post here. What's he talking about? Okay, So this gives us some insight, at least from a Redditor. Take it as you will. I think it's because the shit him and Colossal were spouting on the whole trans topic during that one awful TBH episode recently was being called out for the insanity it was. So I think I know what that is. We'll have a listen to it and see. Also, a lot of us just didn't like how they put Pyro on the spot, like it was a bit dickish. The Charlie call-out was also pretty shit. Yeah, this is from the most recent episode, I believe. Yeah, I covered the Nerd City cat stuff ages ago. Very funny. And it was overall a shit episode. That's probably what he's bitching about, since it's the most recent thing. He's also been being trash talked around the subreddit. People accuse him of running the podcast. I'm not sure. I covered this before as well. This big post about him. Do you remember this? This was kind of part cringe, part funny, I guess. I don't know, dude. This guy's just a spurg. That document seemed overstated and silly, to be honest. I covered that before. I'm not sure how true that is, but to be honest, title drop. I don't like him or his attitude. I'll admit the episodes he talks the most on are usually ones I dislike the most. There's also the whole NFT thing. Lol, anyone who's into NFTs is always unlikable because the brain is fried. Him being into conspiracies and being annoying. Is notable. Throwing a tantrum because he's disliked here is crazy though, but conspiracy theorists are pretty fragile. Honestly, I don't care. Lately, they've had zero chemistry on the TBH podcast. It's been painful to listen to. So I'm not surprised there's behind-the-scenes drama. I mean, seriously, is the podcast not physically painful to listen to for everyone else? Just me? Okay. And then this post here. I don't want this subreddit to sound like a broken record, but for the love of God, Nerd City needs to go. He's an objective piece of shit at this point. This is no longer, he has a few goofy conspiracy theories. It's gotten to the point of defending abusers and nonces, whilst also at the same time being against queer people. Wait, let's not be too hasty here. Hang on a minute. That part sounds pretty based. I think we should hear him out a little bit, in all honesty. He has such a negative impact on the podcast and the Discord, and it's become an absolute drag to sit through because it's basically his own solo podcast where he rants on whatever topic he wants at this point. There's no entertainment value, nothing. He is toxic to his own community, and it truly, truly doesn't understand what purpose he actually serves, or if the rest of the guys even like him. Okay. So, these are some of the complaints about him. Should we have a little look and see what this trans stuff is? We love a bit of trans content, don't we? It's about MoistCritikal too. So MoistCritikal comes into it too. So we've got plenty to get into here, I'm sure. Plenty of takes to be had. Okay, so this is this latest one here, which you can see I've watched 9 seconds of. Now, to be clear, I did watch a little bit of Queenman covering this. Not much, probably like 2 or 3 minutes, and then I thought, no, I'm going to cover this, so I'll stop watching. So after 2 minutes of this, it's going to be all fresh, okay? Let's get into it.
Hello and welcome to another episode of To Be Honest, a show with a clown, a nerd, a duck, and a degenerate. Today we're going to be talking about the Chris Tyson, Mr. Beast situation, but just yesterday there was a debate between MoistCritikal and SNEAKO, essentially a debate between a pedo sympathizer and a child genital mutilation sympathizer.
I feel taking a shot at Charlie in the opening is really bad, by the way.
Why is that bad?
Dude, this is the cancer, isn't it? It's like MoistCritikal gets cover, you can't take a shot at him. It's all got to be about SNEAKO, right? Yeah, of course, you can shit on SNEAKO. I did in my coverage of this. But it's like, he's like completely and utterly gets all this defense. When he also has got, an answer to give for how badly he did. He's done it already now, to be fair. But, what he said was insane also, right? It's so wild to me that someone can say this insane stuff as SNEAKO did. And it's like, yeah, that's really bad. But when Charlie says it, he gets endless apologia and cover for having said it. It's nuts.
I don't know. I just think it's.
I'm just saying what happened.
I didn't watch the entire debate. I just saw a highlight where SNEAKO gave like a very, very, very minuscule, like a very small, specific example. Because he was on about, I think, marrying someone, right? Like they feel ready. And what were the ages he gave again?
He basically believes that
Oh my god, dude. And he's trying to swerve it back round to shit on SNEAKO again. Literally, it's just do not go at MoistCritikal for defending the trans youth.
once you've completed puberty, you're okay to consent to marriage as long as you've got your parents' consent. So a 20-something-year-old could be fucking a 15-year-old and he'd be okay with that.
I don't understand that logic of like you believe that someone like no matter what the age can like marry, but then at the same time you think it's disgusting and abhorrent that like someone could go through like trans surgery or whatever at a young
it's
age.
a clear double standard, 100%.
Yeah, it doesn't.
But
yeah.
then on critical
Yeah,
for critical,
he does go on to say that goes both ways. The double standard goes both ways. Okay, so if you're going to argue that one is bad, you can't then give defense or say the other is okay. It needs to be a flatly 18 on both, which I think is a completely reasonable position. Like, you could probably dig into it and find some sort of loopholes, like, oh, in your logic, oh, but what about this situation? But fundamentally, if you think that marriage should be 18, you should absolutely think that surgical transition for trans people should be 18 also, right? Broadly speaking.
critical as well, for Charlie as well, it's a complete double standard.
I mean, how do we feel about it with the trans thing? Like, do you think under 18 is okay? Over 18 is okay?
I think we have to agree with whatever you think, Pyro. What do you think about that?
It's really complicated actually, because like I can't instantly jump and be like, oh, anyone should get it, or like, no, you shouldn't do it when you're 18. I do know, for example, people that transitioned when they were younger.
Serious question. Is Chud still an anti-SJW who targets regressive nationalists? Or is his targeting of queer trans groups just because of the recent... No, I actually am anti-LGBT. That's why.
When they were like under 18 and their lives were really improved from it in their perspective. But then I also know people that ended up becoming trans when they were a minor, under 18, and then they ended up regretting it and having to almost like revert back to their original gender, and then they hate themselves for it and think, well, I made such a stupid decision when I was, my brain wasn't fully mature and stuff. So it's difficult. I think like what did Critical bring up? He mentioned like
okay, I don't... Is Pyro trans now? Or what is their deal? Are they transgender or not? I don't fucking know what their situation is, okay? God, I don't want to get into the depths of this because the trans stuff is absolutely fucking obnoxious to talk about most of the time, okay? But, the problem you've got is this, okay? For many years now, well, probably the last 5 or 6 years, say, maybe a bit longer, the argument has been made of affirming care for, children that are expressing gender incongruence, okay? It's been to affirm. And this is what led to the idea of social transitioning, and then puberty blockers, and then, a younger age other than 18, hormone replacement and or surgery, okay? Now, the problem is information has come out which suggests that this affirming model of care, despite what has been claimed by the pro-trans activists, which is that this is essential in order to prevent kids topping themselves, that isn't actually necessarily the best way to deal with this. And the evidence that backs up some of the treatments and the ways of dealing with it is not as solid as people have claimed. Like, people were saying, it's settled science. What am I saying? What part is confusing? It's pretty simple. The science, as is claimed, does not fucking back up. You just got here. Okay, well, the basic premise is this. It's very, very simple, okay? Trans community claims affirming model for trans youth is the way to go, and this has been pushed, particularly in America, very hard. Also, parts, in the UK, this has been a thing we've been dealing with. further information has come out from medical orgs that's saying actually that might not be the best way to go about it. And also there's a lot of evidence that isn't actually as good as you're claiming to back up some of these claims, right? And so it's created this issue now where some of the areas that it's been pushed into, it seems that it was too far too quickly. And actually it's not good evidence. So we need to take a step back and take a more cautious approach when dealing with this. Because the issue that you've got, as Pyro himself points out there, right, is if you've got someone who transitions and then later on they turn out to be fully trans and stuff, okay, does that justify someone who doesn't end up being trans, who ends up having to detransition? Well, to me, I say no, I don't think it does. I think detransition is too much of a risk for us to get this wrong. And so a much more cautious approach is warranted. Now, what that does mean is people who end up being trans later down the line are going to be going through a puberty that ends up making changes to their body that they're not going to like and are going to have to reverse later on. But I think that the fact they're doing that when they're an adult and making those decisions, you know, as much as it sucks for that individual, the alternative is we put younger people under 18 on pathways to treatments and to medical processes, you know, that they're going to end up not being able to go back from. And that to me seems like a terrible thing. And I've seen myself how detransitioners have been treated by the trans community. And I think the longer that I've observed that and looked at that, it's made more sense to me. The reason that they despise and often will be heavily critical of detransitioners is, you know, certainly some of them do go down a right-wing bent and stuff like that. I mean, that's the people that tend to support them because they support their goals. But also it creates an issue with this argument for endlessly affirming care that they support. If you've got this affirming model and then people get caught up in that want to detransition, well, that means that's an issue and that's a problem that needs to be resolved before you can move forward, you know, with these procedures and the things you want to do, you know? Yeah, I think that this is the fundamental heart of the problem when it comes to this stuff is there has been this progressive push further and further with the trans healthcare aspect. And it's gone beyond, I think, what the evidence could really back up. And now there's this kind of elastic snap back to reality of, hang on a minute, some of the stuff that is being suggested and pushed isn't quite what it is suggested. And I think progressives have, at the best, misrepresented and at worst, lied about this situation. You know, who remembers the GLAD thing? It's settled science. Remember that? Gender affirming care for minors is settled science. No, it never was settled science. That was a lie. That's a lie that was told to push things forward. And the fact that we've got to a point where there's this big debate now, and MoistCritikal is saying what he said about surgery for a 9-year-old. I mean, it's nuts. It's completely insane. And it just shows that, you know, well-meaning people like MoistCritikal, who's trying to be an advocate and pro-trans community, says something utterly insane because that's their perception of where it is and where it should be, you know? And as much as I've been critical of MoistCritikal for that, there's also blame to be laid at the feet of progressives who have pushed these insane narratives and these insane lines. And obviously, you know, with SNEAKO, it's the same, but it's Muslims that are to blame for that, you know? Muslims are the ones that have got insane takes on this stuff. You know, more extreme, conservative Muslims. You know, he's just aping, you know, the perspectives. Like, he's got his own cross to bear, so to speak, for his takes on it, obviously. But it's just aping kind of Muslims. And it's the same thing with MoistCritikal. He's got his cross to bear, but he's aping what he thinks progressives, extreme trans advocate progressives want to say about this stuff, you know? Anyway, hopefully we don't get too much more into the gender stuff, so I've got to give all my takes about it, because it's very laborious and boring, okay?
Like, if the parents consent, but then again, it's the parents. Like, you could be in a household where you feel like you want to be trans, and the parents, you know, they could be like fully conservative or like fully against you, you know, and that's bad. But then on the flip side of that, you could have someone there, you know, a child growing up that's young, and the parents are incredibly like left leaning to the point that like they think if their kid's like a little bit feminine and they're like a boy, it's like, oh, they could be trans. Let's kind of nudge them in this direction and see what happens.
There are parents that do.
nudge them. There are 3-year-olds that are non-binary now. Now, look, don't get me wrong, guys. You need to be fucking clear on something, okay? Some of that stuff is utilized for rage bait, right? I do not think that there's a big spate of 3-year-olds that are being made to be non-binary. Okay? But there's no way you're going to convince me that a fucking 3-year-old is in situations where that's happening is genuinely expressing their gender in some way. It's just in utter insanity. And it's very, I mean, what is it? Who's that celebrity that's got 3 trans kids apparently? Like, what are the fucking odds of that? The odds of that are like, you know, stacking the odds up of each person being trans when the rate of being transgender is so low. I mean, Jesus Christ, bro, that's absurd. Megan Fox. Has anyone done the odds of that? What are the odds of all 3 children in one family being transgender? It's just absurdity. And it stacks up arguments for the, what is it called? Social contagion shit.
Do it just to get clicks on TikTok.
The parents influence what happens to the kid a lot, whether they get that kind of like gender affirming surgery, whatever you call it. But at the same time, like they can also block that. But it does depend. Like if you have like a family that wouldn't ever accept it and you feel like you are trans, and that's a horrible situation to be in, you feel trapped. But on the opposite end, you might have someone that, you know, is just, I mean, okay, an example for me, right? Like when I was growing up, when I was a kid, when I was like 10, I played with like, I had a sister. This might have like played into it a bit.
Here we go.
But like,
here we go.
No. Wait.
Hey, Colossal called it what we're all thinking.
Wait. Like
Head
would
makes
watch...
it sound like past. You said had a sister. Like, is she dead now?
No, I rest in peace. No, she's still alive.
So you used to dress up in her clothes, you used to play with her toys. What happened?
Nah, I would play like with her toys and stuff and like watch like kind of like girly Barbie films with her and stuff. And I do think to myself like,
Makes
you know,
sense.
Thank you. And I do think to myself in a sense, like if I had parents that were like, you know, incredibly like progressive, they might have thought, oh my God, like our kid's trans. Should we maybe like, you know, see if they want to go in that direction? I remember as a good example as well. This is a good example.
No, this is ridiculous. I'm telling you 100%, a normal parent does not look at a kid doing that and go, maybe Google it and go, maybe they're trans, right? That is motivated reasoning, okay? The kind of parents that would push something like that on a kid have got their own ideology which is making them do it, okay? There's no way you're going to convince me a fucking regular parent's going to be like, oh, they're playing with a doll. Oh, we Googled it. Maybe they're trans. In fact, I don't even know how you'd get that result on Google. I'm pretty sure if you looked up, you know, is it normal for a boy to play with girls' toys or stuff? They'd be like, yeah, that's a perfectly normal part of development. Like, of course it is. Oh my God, dude. The chances of your kid being trans is like 1 in fucking whatever. It's such a low possibility. Because the other thing to bear in mind as well is, and this is something that's been uncovered in doing this research, is there are times when someone might express gender incongruence in their youth, but then going through puberty has an impact of normalizing their perception of their gender, sex, whatever you want to call it, right? So they feel more comfortable with their birth sex. So even if someone is expressing that, the likelihood of them going on to be trans in later life is like so infinitesimally small, okay? The odds are your kid is not trans, okay? That's just the fucking facts. So, you know, this idea that these parents out there are doing this is nuts. Now, obviously, you know, I think that any parent who, like, God, do you know what? Another thing that really got me off this progressive shit, this trans progressive stuff, right? I remember discourse about this happening years ago, and there was like discussion about how great people would find it if their kids were trans. And I remember thinking when I was hearing this, it wasn't something I expressed at the time. It was more of a thought in the back of my mind, you know, being ingratiated in all these fucking progressive spaces, or being career suicide at the time to do it. But it was like, what if my kid was trans? I'd have to be happy about that. Why on earth would I be happy about something which, based on what you yourself say, would be an extremely destructive and horrendous process to go through throughout an entire life? Oh, your kid is going to have to go through a bunch of fucking, bunch of shit through that early life, which is going to lead to, my country, hormones at 18, I think, I don't know if they could get it younger. But anyway, in any case, just to keep it simple, then they're going to go through hormones and possibly surgery in order to try and be a simulacra of the sex that they believe that they are in their head. Yeah, sounds great. Sign me up. Yeah, great. Yeah, I'm really happy that my kid is going to go through all of that as they grow up. Like, what are you on about? That sounds like a horrendous experience. Any normal person would feel completely freaked out by that, and that's totally reasonable, And you would hope that that isn't the case, and they wouldn't have to go through all of that. But yeah, I don't know, dude. Oh. Wait, there's more spurging. Oh my god, dude, he's spurging more. I'm just slamming Pyro name searches with our Pyrocynical so he knows what a captured cuck he is. Pyro's literally afraid of it. True, the show and Pyro subreddit evolved into radioactive internet trash. I think Pyro should change his name to r/Pyrocynical since it's so OP. 95% of likes on YouTube, but the cancellations attempt have way over 50% support on the Pyro subreddit. He's calculating the percentage. This is so stupid, dude. If it was even 50-50, it would have a 0 score. When my Discord said Pyro is a nonce or whatever, I argue with it every time. When someone on Twitter called Pyro a hypocrite because he said he wouldn't talk about some topic, but then we did, I replied on main to clear that up. It's not hard to let your viewers know what they shouldn't keep saying. If they say something accurate, it didn't make it worse. I totally disagree. Viewers have got the right to be wrong about things. Why are you? I mean, obviously in chat, you might want to take a different tact. But outside of that, if people want to talk their shit, let them talk their shit. I mean, I can understand you might not want people saying so-and-so's a nonce, maybe. I don't know. Womp womp. Yeah, I just think this is a massive overreaction for something that could just be ignored. Or make content about it, argue about it on the podcast. That could be fun. Maybe that's the answer. But other than that, this is just stupid. Anyway, keep the spurging coming if there's more, okay? We're going to keep going with this for now.
Example I've got, right? So when I was younger as well, this isn't to do with trans, but it's more just in the sense of changing your body almost permanently in a permanent way as a child. So again, I personally believe that anyone obviously should get the freedom of choice. Obviously, if you're in a household where you feel like you're trans and your parents don't support that.
Yeah, exactly. You've got it. Yeah. I defended you, Pyro, from the most damning accusation ever. Why aren't you defending me from benign criticism? Yeah, exactly.
That's shit, and you need to get that support. But also, I remember as a kid when I was younger, I was
oh, look, DK's done it too. TBH. He said TBH. Let's go.
I was convinced. I psyoped
Roll
myself
credits.
into thinking I was like a midget, like a manlet, right? And
I actually remember some of that.
Well, I reckon. I do wonder. Wait a second. Is there a bit of resentment here? Wait. Hang on a minute. I've just thought of something. Is there some resentment in all of this? Is NerdCity spurging out so hard because he sat there thinking, Pyro, mate, listen, you're a total DJ and I've defended you from all sorts, and now you're not willing to moderate your subreddit when people are shitting on me. I reckon there's an unspoken resentment that's glimpsed at when he makes that little nonce comment there, that he probably feels perturbed by the fact that Pyrocynical is not doing anything to defend him when he has gone out of his way to defend him in the past over the nonce stuff. But he doesn't want to say that, does he? Yeah, it's I've had to sweep for you for years, but he doesn't want to say it that way. He's kind of hinted at it in some of his comments. Yeah, you've done way worse than me and I swept for you. Now I'm not getting the same in return, even though you could easily deal with this. Okay. That's interesting. Maybe that's something to do with it too. I could understand that. I can understand being bothered about that. It's still gay. Don't get me wrong. It's still dumb. I still don't think he should care about it, but I can at least understand that perception. of feeling like not getting anything in return when you have gone out of your way to help your podcast fellow host, you know? Armchair logic. I mean, I don't think it's... I'm not trying to psychologize him. I'm just saying what I'm seeing. That's all. And I'm seeing something, I think.
When I first met you.
When I was convinced I was a midget, I'm like 5'11", 6 foot, very, very average height. But I guess it's because I was like always with like tall friends, like college and stuff. But I genuinely convinced myself for about 4 years, like, I'm a midget, I need to get taller. And I was looking up like the kind of foods you eat and stuff like that, which is fine, you know, but like,
was
that's
this from
not
like
do
14
anything.
to 18?
Yeah, I think so.
Or...
But then
yeah.
I genuinely wanted to get leg lengthening surgery. Like, I saw it online and it became this like obsession that I had, that like I had to become taller, where like that leg lengthening surgery, that fucks you up for life, because they basically break your legs. They put stints in them to extend, so when the bone grows back, it grows extended. And then
Yeah, personally, I feel like having surgery to go against God's design and transform yourself into something that you're not is terrible, and you should never do it. I was talking about the leg lengthening surgery, by the way. Okay, to be clear. I was talking about the leg stuff. That only talking about that, okay?
then you're taller by a couple inches, great. But like now you could basically do like
you can't
very
run,
few.
can't do
Yeah,
anything.
I mean, you probably could run, but like the recovery time is like years, and then also you could never run at the capacity that you could run before, because you've got like so many like augmentations and like titanium in your body and stuff. Like it does, it's an aesthetic change.
You ended up being a tall guy, and did you go so far as looking into getting that surgery?
Oh, yeah, no, I went to my GP for it. I went to my GP and I was like, okay.
Really?
No, I did. Yeah. My parents like were basically laughing at me, and they were just like, oh, yeah, no, if you want to do it, go for it. Because they just expected, they expected the GP to just laugh me out the office.
The GP probably laughed.
No, he did. He literally laughed me out the office. He's like, no,
like, you're a moron.
Yeah,
and then he
literally
charged you $200 anyway.
Well, no, we're in the UK, so thankfully it's free. But yeah, then like... there was no like slow change of like, okay, maybe I shouldn't think about this so much. It was just one day, it just snapped, and I was like, wait, no, I'm fine.
Well, I mean, I know that sounds a bit nuts, but I'm guessing they probably thought the GP was going to be like, yeah, this is absurd. Like, you're fine. You're going to grow up and don't worry about it or something, right? I don't know, something like that.
Just like your legs would have if you went through
exactly.
So that's interesting. Do you think that if the child wants it and the parents consent to it, that they should be allowed to get their legs surgically lengthened?
This is a great question. This is actually a really good question to get to the heart of this. I obviously alluded to it on my little joke a second ago, but absolutely, this is a completely fair question to ask.
Well, I'm happy that I didn't, because that would have fucked me up for life.
No, but that's not answering.
Yeah,
I understand that, but that's not
he's
answering my question.
swerving.
Okay, so what was the question again?
Do you think if the parents consent, the child wants the leg lengthening surgery, that they should be able to get it?
What, if the child consents or the parent?
Both, Pyro.
Okay. See, I feel like my personal bias is coming into this, because I'm happy that it didn't happen to me. Because if my parents consented to that, I would have been like fucked for life.
I don't think
literally.
you could even...
Wait a second. Personal bias is reasonable if you've got a reasonable argument. The argument there being, if you do it, you are, as you say, fucked for life. It's going to have a substantial impact on you for the rest of your life, and you're making that decision when you're a child. And we should avoid that, right? Like, obviously, I think there's some things we would agree easily. Do you think if the mother and child agrees that they can chop their arm off, then they should be allowed to do that? No, probably not. No, I don't think that's okay ever. Like, the only circumstance I can think that would be okay is if there was some accident that would lead to that being the case. But, perfectly healthy limb, no, obviously not. Queenman said the child's consent doesn't matter. But presumably he meant the other way round, i.e. a child is not able to fully equipped to consent to something like that. I doubt he believes that. I mean, he is, well, let's not get into that, okay? Listen, I'm not...
even get that when you're that young, right? Because your growth plates and everything
You'd
are
have
still
to go
growing.
abroad or something. Like, I looked into it heavily.
Yeah, it would be illegal.
Yeah, this is like before YouTube money as well.
I love that a year ago, Chud was down. Was I down? I thought I debated Dario on that. I thought I disagreed with Dario. I can't remember. I could be wrong.
Oh, and that
You
cost
looked into it heavily. So
Yeah.
Pyro, you had vocal dysmorphia and body dysmorphia.
What's vocal dysmorphia?
Remember, you thought your voice wasn't right.
Oh yeah.
You were-
So guys,
that's right.
we did
yeah,
it.
I did the.
I'm gaslighting you because I don't remember for certain either. Based. Absolutely based. I think, okay, so I think that, dude, the trouble I've got with this is I think that there's obviously some procedures that would sound absurd on the face of it, but there is a good underlying medical reason for having something done, right? And I think, as far as I understand, it is primarily the childhood trans stuff which is called into question because of the affirming model and stuff like that. See, dude, bro, this is going to get me in trouble for the chaser stuff, right? If you want to have a pair of tits installed, I think that's probably okay. But if you know, other stuff, probably not. I don't know, dude. It's not very effective, is it? From what I understand. Bro, some of the trans men stuff, get away from the gok for a second. Some of the trans men shit that I see is fucking nuts, dude. I'm like, what? You're getting like, oh God, it's not nice to look at even, you know?
The fake deep voice, that might even be a thing. I don't know. I look back on those.
Oh, is that okay? Why? Do you know what? I think, okay. I think that's what it comes down to, really. I think, okay. I think I've got a better fucking idea. Yeah, I think DK's got a revelation there. Okay? But okay, no, wait. Adding stuff on. Well, no, wait. Okay, I've got it. Adding stuff on, okay, is like a cosmetic surgery and stuff is probably okay. But dismantling bits is probably wrong. But if in order to add something, you need to take something off yourself, like a big portion of your arm. Bro, are you really going to tell me if some dude wants to get a pair of tits installed, regardless of what the circumstances are, you're going to have a problem with that? Really? You don't care if some fucking woman gets it done, do you? What, 'cause you think it's weird? Some fella walking around with a pair of tits? I don't know, dude. I don't know what the right answer to that is, okay? I just think that, you know, at a fundamental level, trans is a real aspect to it there. I just think that children should be obviously protected from the consequence of long-term consequence of doing stuff like that. And the, you know, this your brain on progressivism. Okay, but are you against plastic surgery generally? The thing is, this is about trying to find some level of consistency with this, right? Because obviously, if someone wants to get their face chopped up to remove something like a birthmark or something, I'm not going to care about that. So other cosmetic procedures, I'm not going to be that concerned about either, you know? See, the problem is you saying stuff like that is you're going to end up in a situation where your views are going to be inconsistent somewhere, right? I don't know, dude. I don't know what the right answer to this is. I don't know what the correct solution is. All I know is that, you know, I think we could all agree, regardless of what the idiosyncratic fucking perspective is for adults, whatever the case may be, plastic surgery, essential surgery, whatever you want to talk about, BBL, whatever, okay? Yeah, I think Ali's got a point here. The resident TERF has got a point. The issue is that it's never sold as plastic surgery, i.e. elective body modification that may or may not be a horrible idea. It's sold as life-saving psychiatric medicine. I think that is something that you need to move away from, is the kind of, do it now, do it, or I will do it, right? I think that is something that you should probably move away from, especially when it comes to kids, especially considering that there isn't good evidence of increased suicidality if you don't give, you know, kids these treatments, these gender-affirming treatments and whatnot, right? Like, that is an absolute cancerous thing that progressives are pushed that should just be stopped immediately.
Those videos, like, because they'll come up and recommend it, and I'll cringe, and I'll be like, why the fuck did I do that?
If he wasn't comfortable with the sound of his own voice and had embarrassment from it, he had dysphonia. He had vocal dysmorphia.
It's not something I suffer with anymore. Like, I'm completely comfortable with my height. It's so weird. I swear.
You just wish you were a giant fat planet.
So true. It's reached a point now where, like, it's the same as like my kinks, right? It's like I'll get shamed on stream for my height because I'll just lie on stream and say I'm 7'2" or something, like a giant. I had one guy on my Reddit And I don't know if you've seen the backdrop of my videos, the IKEA shelf with all the little holes in it. Someone looked at that IKEA shelf. They did a cross-reference to a picture of me to try and estimate my height, and then they took like 2 feet off. So I ended up being like, I think 2'9" or something. And like, if I was in that mind space that I was like years ago, that would have really fucked with me and made me insecure. But now it's just like, lol, that's funny. I get to react to it and put it on TikTok.
So where did the insecurity stem from? Was this, I mean, you used the terminology manlet, so I'm assuming like you were browsing 4chan at the time.
I think, like I said earlier, it was my mates at school, because I hung around with people in my year that were like really tall, like for their age as well. They were like 16 and they were like, 6'4" and stuff. And I think that might have played like an aspect into it.
But did they bully you and insult you for being shorter than them at any point?
No, never. That's the thing. It might have even been a confidence thing, right? Where it's like, I feel like I didn't have confidence. Maybe if I was, because everyone does that, right? It's like,
bro, it's so transparent what's happened in this, isn't it? So Pyro has had some of his views challenged about this trans stuff in a, debatey, a totally reasonable way. And people don't like it. Like, literally, the only thing you can do... And this is what's so funny about the MoistCritikal stuff, the cope now. The complete denial of he said anything bad, and all he did was promote good trans stuff. Like, dude, it's so dishonest, bro. It's like, a completely correct, critical takedown of what SNEAKO said about stuff. To the meticulous detail of the words he said even. And then when MoistCritikal, it's, he just, he just said positive things about trans youth. It's like you could do the same with SNEAKO if you wanted. All SNEAKO was advocating for was just that people that are in a loving relationship can get married. That was it. And failing to mention that one of the parties involved is 12. Like, you could do the same thing the other way around. Like, obviously, it's the nature, it's the specifics of what was said that makes what was said so egregious. Not just the vague generalities of what they're getting at, Well, listen, if I get clipped, that is retarded, bro. I have prefaced and said extensively everything I think is wrong with SNEAKO. It's just that, I feel like unless you're Muslim, you would be against what SNEAKO was saying. And everyone was. All the writers were against it. Even fucking Nick Merckx, who doesn't like the trans stuff quite a lot, came out and said, yeah, man, this what SNEAKO was saying was whack as well, So yeah, it's just... if you're going to be critical of SNEAKO, be critical of fucking MoistCritikal as well at the very least, right? And SNEAKO is benefiting from a kind of retard buff in that people already know what SNEAKO is all about, and he's kind of retarded on shit. So MoistCritikal is getting a bit more of the whack of that, I guess you could say. But dude, it's like you still be honest about what he said and be critical of it.
If I'm taller, I'll probably have more confidence. The whole statistical memes. It's like CEOs are taller than the average person, presidents
Always
are taller than the average person, that kind of stuff. How like people that are taller are respected more. Like I heavily obsessed with this kind of stuff when I was younger. It was really, really unhealthy. I'm happy I came out on the other end. And like I wish I could sit here and say like I got like therapy for it or something, but I didn't. I just kind of woke up one day and I was like, that was retarded.
Yeah.
You do just because your brain's developing, right? Like your brain doesn't fully lock in until you're like, what, 25? So I just think I kind of just snapped out of it while my brain was still like mush. And I was like, okay, well, yeah, that was weird.
Going back to my previous...
Oh, I heard about this. Yeah, apparently Andrew Tate is trans because a picture of him in Speedos. He didn't have a bulge or something. Lots of people saying Andrew Tate is trans.
Question, and given your bias towards this, would you be okay with a child getting leg lengthening surgery if he consented, she consented, and the parents consented?
Oh, bro, he's pinning him down on this.
You only need to answer yes or no.
I can't give a yes or no, though. It's so much more complicated. I know that is...
What do you mean? Yes, you can. Of course you can. It's easy. No. I do not think that is a thing that can be given even if consented to. There's plenty of things that all parties consent to, and we still have boundaries on whether or not we administer that. Oh, this kid wants a heart transplant. The parents have said yes, and the fucking kid has said yes, but there's no medical need to, so we're not going to do it, no, because that would be a great risk and a danger. Well, I don't know, even surgery which we would accept in other cases is acceptable, we would say no if there was no need to, right? Like, it's so insane to me that this is such a hard, complex question.
It's the most politician Rishi Sunak thing ever. But nah, it's like, I would get, if my kid wanted that, especially like, okay, removing my bias, I would get so many fucking second opinions, like an insane amount. Because again, I do believe, like, you know, like I have, I'm also a little bit biased as well because I know like a large portion of my fan base are like trans, right? So I feel like, you know, like, and a lot of them have came to me at meet and greets and stuff, and they've came up to me and they've said, you know, like, I told my mom that I'm trans today. You're the second person that I've told, you know.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Dude.
But how do I make money off depressed people?
Thank you for the $2. Our reviewers are sickos. Oh my god, bro, this is nuts. Also, are they actually trans? I mean, dude, the social contagion is real. I'm sick of all this. Social contagion is a real thing. Of course it is. All these fucking more prominent trans people now. Bro, earlier, right? And also, these rates of increase, as far as I understand, go beyond what you'd expect from just having more acceptance of this stuff, right? The rate for, like, natal females, younger natal females going in for stuff is fucking wild, dude. It's like a fucking rocket going up. Anyway. If not so, dude, this is fucking... Is this the impact of having an to a fault, pro-trans perspective? So, social contagion accounts for probably 95% of trans people in the last 5 years. I base this on 0% scientific knowledge. Based.
You know, and it's like, I feel like everyone should be given that choice, but there is also that kind of risk of like, you need to make sure that you know what you're getting into, because there are people that have gone trans that have done it and they've totally regretted it. And obviously, like, that is probably a minority of people, and they'll be used for like hit pieces and stuff.
So maybe don't you think that they should wait until they're
Yes,
an adult?
exactly.
Wait until adulthood in order
Yes.
to make a life-altering decision like that?
That's the whole point, and that's the argument, is that because there's a chance that things can be different, wait until they're an adult to move forward with some of these things. That's a perfectly legitimate, reasonable argument, because, and as all medicine, sometimes even if you think you might be doing good, the risk of something can go beyond. And that's why we have hard rules in medicine, so that we don't have these kind of like, oh, how many people need to be trans to justify transing one kid? Like, do you know what I mean? How many people are going to end up regretting their fucking puberty versus how many are going to look back and go, oh God, thank God I didn't go further with this because I actually don't feel that way anymore. And now I've gone through normal puberty and everything's chill.
Like that?
See, yeah, it's so... I do want to agree with that. I really do, but I feel like I'm taking a choice away from someone if I agree to that. Do you know what I mean? This is why I feel like I can't say yes or no to it.
But
We take choices away at the medical level all the time from people who we feel are too young to do something. What?
giving like major life decisions to kids now.
I feel there needs to be.
I don't
like,
think you can let kids do just about anything that they want, especially with major life decisions, because their brains haven't even fully formed yet.
I feel like
are you
needs to
okay with
be-
a child consuming alcohol?
No,
There you go.
but that's
Yeah, but what if the kid consents and the adult consents? Are you accepting of it then? Can a 5-year-old drink whiskey if the parents agree and the kid obviously would agree because they're 5? Actually, no, it's funny. Actually, you'd think a kid would just be like, "Yeah, I'll have a bit of whiskey or something," but actually, they're not normally. They think it's gross and disgusting. Should a child be able to eat only ice cream as long as the parents consent? Like, dude, this is so obvious that there's lots of situations where we have something beyond that, where if a parent does consent to something and the kid consents, but we feel it's bad as a society for the child, we'll take the kid away.
I think alcohol is different to life
So
changing.
that's okay, but not major life-changing surgery?
No, I think there needs to be like I said, I think that this is one, because again, like I'm not like well versed in this at all, and I know this is like a fucking minefield to talk about, but I know
It is a
like,
minefield
a
for
lot
sure,
of
but it
people-
is. I think it is kind of easy just to give like a yes or no answer to it.
in the UK, I know a lot of people do get that kind of like independent review to like kind of see if I can go trans or I can't go trans, or get the medication to start, the funny woman pills or whatever.
Funny
And
woman pills.
That also depends.
Bro,
That
what was
also-
that?
Minefield
a
for
lot
sure,
of
but it
people-
is. I think it is kind of easy just to give like a yes or no answer to it.
In the UK, I know a lot of people do get that kind of like independent review to like kind of see if I can go trans or I can't go trans, you know, or get the medication to start, you know, the funny woman pills or whatever.
Funny
And
woman pills.
Why? What? God, it's sickening that this is like a joke. Funny woman pills. I think you're talking about life-changing hormones. Like what? The downplaying of it is wild. We're talking about kids transitioning, bro. We're not talking about fucking jokes.
That also depends. that also depends on like who's in government, right? Like it was Conservative, which were right leaning, and now it's Labour that's left leaning. So the people in power there might be more open to it. It's complicated. It's basically like,
Bro, okay, obviously there's a level of government intervention in medication and stuff like that. But yeah, it should be the healthcare organizations that are making these decisions. Obviously, you've got to have some sort of remit in there, you know, some sort of basis so that they're not making crazy, you know, fucking, what do you call it? Knocking the brains out type sentiments or, you know, whatnot. But lots of healthcare orgs, without the intervention of like the right-wing governments, as people seem to claim, have come to the conclusion that some of this stuff is not kosher. By the way, guys, after we finish with this, it's going to be time to...
Okay, that's wonderful. But how
I think
do
I'm going to do
make
that
money
thing I've been
off
talking
depressed
about.
people?
Check chat summary.
I can't see it at my end. What does it say? We're going to do the Skin I Live In thing, movie summary that I keep talking about after this. That's going to be fun. I watched it the other day and I thought, damn, I really need to show chat this. Chat are going to get a real fucking kick out of this, okay?
like I was Jesus, I was about to compare it to like the death penalty or something there, but yeah, I don't know, because I feel like you know like the death penalty, right? Like the reason why that was removed because you have people that, you know, it was removed in the UK because
the stakes are so high. You want to make sure that you've gone through every last appeal.
Like, yeah, it's a poor example, but like it's one of those things that I think of like I don't want to take the choice away from someone, and it's not my right to, but also that is a huge commitment. But again, like I know people that, like, you know,
we're not asking you to pass the verdict on this. We're not asking you to sit in the Supreme Court or a court of law.
I thought you said a yes
anything,
or no though.
or
Like,
be a
would you
politician.
personally allow
Well, just
it?
yes or no in your opinion.
If you get like an independent, if it's someone underage, I think there should be at least a kind of period where they might be able to get reviewed or assessed, just some kind of outside party apart from the family.
Or multiple.
You mean like a doctor?
But again, it's so it's such a you cannot give. I sound like a fucking politician. It's pissing me off. You can't give a yes or no to that because it's like the parents could be denying the kids what they want, their own children. The parents.
You do realize that as a parent, you deny things that kids want all the time. If you said yes to everything your kid ever demanded, you would be a terrible parent, because then you need to teach moderation and stuff like that. You know, you'd also have no money because you'd buy every single thing you ever see. You know,
It could be.
Oh, hey, Willie Mac. I don't feel the topic is that complicated. No, it's not. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. But Pyro's making a meal out of it because he doesn't want to give a take that's going to upset his trans
Okay, that's wonderful.
fan base.
But how do I make money off depressed people?
Thank you for the $2. I mean, in fairness, he's doing a better job than MoistCritikal, which is saying something, right? MoistCritikal just went straight in there. Yep, gender transition for a 9-year-old. Sign me up. Let's go.
Almost pushing onto, because I've seen
I've seen a video where it's pushing.
I've seen kids in like conservative households that feel like they're trans, and their parents being so against it, if anything, is making them want to transition more, and they build that hatred towards their parents. But then in countries like, you know, in the Nordics, like Sweden, I've seen people that are so liberal that, like, you know, that the parents will go by, you know, like they, them pronouns and stuff, like gender neutral, and then they'll, like I told you earlier, like I played with like girls' toys and watched girls' films as a kid, you know, like Barbie and shit like that. You know, if I lived in that kind of household from like one of these like Vice documentaries I've saw, my parents would probably assume that I was trans and probably try to kind of nudge me down that. It's such a difficult topic, but I think you should always be given the choice, But I think you need to understand with the choice that there are like heavy like ramifications to it that are life changing.
Okay, let me get you off this plank for a second and put myself on it and around the circling sharks. Okay, so to use your to
Do you
use your
really
example,
want to do that after last episode?
yeah, I don't care. To use your example here, where you weren't as tall as your mates, and we also have a lot of video record of you.
How many times have I taken? I took 2. So I took it 11, 2, 5, 8. Yeah. I need to take it again. I fucked it up today. It's supposed to be every 4 hours, but I forgot to take it this morning. So I'm doing it every 3 hours. Yes, the HIV meds, correct. You got it. Here we go. We're laughing. Should be feeling better for my holiday. Oh, just some penicillin. I got some sort of throat infection or something. I think it's working. I feel better. I feel a bit better already.
You not thinking your voice was deep enough. If you were to, like, let's say there was a surgery that could mess with your vocal box and make your voice deeper. And then you found that there was a surgery, if you go abroad to sketchier countries, where they will break your legs, basically stretch them apart like braces, allow the bone to grow in between, and just over time, you sit in a hotel for a month, and eventually you come out of this with a terrible limp, but you have an extra 6 inches of height. You looked into this. It was something that you could have done to address that. Part of getting approval for a surgery like that should involve talking to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, clinical psychologist.
If you stop taking the pills, you will find you're talking to your computer screen alone in the room.
Thank you for the $5. Appreciate it. Thank you. Based. That's what I'm talking about.
Psychologist who would say, who would interrogate these thoughts you were having and would go, now, Niall, are your friends telling you that you're too short? Are you getting a lot of this data from the world? Are they telling you you're too short? Or do you see your friends who are tall and you wish that you were tall? Are you envious of them? Because you don't need to be envious of them. Like you're valuable in all of these other ways. And they might identify that you were feeling envy and that you actually, that's a difficult thing for parents to sort out and to say to their kid, like, hey, are you just jealous? Like they're going to be like, what they're going to do is try to affirm just one side of it and be like, you're perfect. And you don't.
Dude, is he making the social contagion argument in a roundabout way? Is that what's going on here?
Don't trust them because your parents have always been telling you that you're good, right? You're like, they don't know. Like you reach this age where you don't believe their compliments anymore, but that's why you would need to talk to a professional who would interrogate that. Now, to take that example and then put it back on trans, this is very hot. This is a very hot topic because in Canada, in order to eliminate the basically like camps that religious fundamentalists would send their basically gay kids to convert them, conversion camps. In order to trying to target conversion camps, they made it illegal for medical professionals, psychological professionals, to people in mental health to do anything other than affirmative care when someone comes in and is experiencing distress over gender identity. So they can't do that questioning. So if someone comes in with a self-diagnosis, the equivalent of you saying, hey,
is it that absolute? I didn't know if it was that absolute. I mean, I don't know enough about the American stuff. I don't think it's as absolute as he's suggesting. But what is true is there is a kind of the thing that's pushed by trans rights activists and stuff is this affirming model for gender incongruence in kids. Like that's what they're saying is you should socially transition, then put them on puberty blockers, and then once they reach 16, they can potentially get some sort of surgery and or hormones, and then by 18 they fully transition. That is the model that is generally pushed by super hardline pro-trans people.
I'm too short and my voice is too high based on potential envy. They can't identify that in the case of gender identity stress. They're legally not allowed to. So it's like a rubber stamp. If you go in with the equivalent of my voice is too high, I'm too short, they have to go, we agree. When do you want your surgery? You know?
I mean, the voice one is crazy because he just hadn't completed.
I think I understand the concern with it. I just don't think it's that absolute from what I understand. I think the absoluteness is an error even within the model that exists, because it's supposed to be that you still discuss and look at other options, right? Human search suggests, yeah, it doesn't sound right to me. I think even in the most pro-trans hellscape you could imagine, I don't think it's that severe.
Puberty yet, and his voice hadn't fully broken. So if he's getting, if he's wanting, imagine it. This is a hypothetical situation where he wanted surgery. If this is even possible.
Wasn't there a case in the UK where they admitted doctors giving out way too many surgeries? I don't believe so. No, not as far as I'm aware. The problem was getting a consultation at a gender clinic, and because they're so overworked, they would move quickly to things like puberty blockers. I think was the problem, more so than anything else.
To make his voice deeper when all he has to do is just wait.
The middle ground opinion is unfortunately becoming less and less relevant, because like if you do it, people will read between the lines and it's like, oh, he said that one sentence that doesn't apply to my extreme belief. Okay, you're on the other side then.
Yeah, just everything's grouped.
The middle ground opinion on genders is
Okay, super pro-trans people are unreasonable, and their views have been shown to be not strongly backed up on a scientific basis, despite constantly talking about how much science backs them up for fucking years. Okay, so I don't know why we're playing so much. Fuck these people. They're fucking extremists in their own way. Fuck the people that push this endless affirming model, even in the face of other evidence which goes against them. They're totally unreasonable. Okay. Now, I'm not saying you need to completely placate the other side and go to, yeah, no one should have a transition and it shouldn't be allowed and you're a man or a woman and that's it, even as an adult. Like, you don't need to go to that level, but you can at least recognize that this endless affirming care that's been pushed by people is not necessarily correct. And in fact, there's not good evidence for it, as has been demonstrated in numerous countries that are now going against these protocols, you know? Dude, the puberty blocker stuff was always like experimental. This idea was settled. It was absurd. Like, of course not. No, it was being used as a kind of off-label treatment. It wasn't. Yeah, puberty blockers were never meant to treat this exact condition. It was supposed to be for like precocious puberty, but it was used for this on the basis that, well, they'll top themselves if they don't get it, and that turned out to not even be fucking true. Like, the lies and dishonesty from the progressive movement on this is utterly insane. And so, no, you should not give this much ground to them. You should say, look, you can be respectful. You can even be more pro-trans than even I am, okay? But you can still recognize the issues of the things and the way they've been pushing with it, you know?
For you right now would be to not engage with the post at all. It would be, which I think is the reasonable thing, to neither feel the need to celebrate it publicly or to disagree with it, to just accept it. You know what I mean? Because the more acceptance there is, then the less of this feeling of, I didn't feel comfortable coming out to speak my truth, right? Like this idea of coming out, you would just say what you are and people would be okay with it. So then we would see less of the overcompensating where everybody holds it up as like, hooray, you've just shared either a mental disorder, a sexual fetish, or a secret, a dark, you know, like a secret that you weren't comfortable talking about before. You know, now we're basically acting like you're the hero of the year. This is an overcompensation for the idea that all of these people are afraid to say, you know, like people are trying to be empathetic, but in the end, they may have overdone it to the point where it looked like a path to more admiration on social media or a path to fixing a social situation that wasn't going very well.
It can be used in a sense to avoid another issue, definitely. But I still do think it's important that everyone gets, you know, that freedom of choice. But even then, like, I don't fully agree with what I'm saying, because again, it's like, you know, if you get like a very young child that obviously like can't even think for themselves, and then
I mean, you
parents might
seem
be
very,
pushing.
very undecided on this issue.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Well, aren't drugs like that though? Well, dude, yeah, of course drugs get used off label for stuff, but when they do, they have to be assessed and checked, and clinical trials and stuff need to be done. And the clinical trials and the stuff that's been used to back up the arguments for this as has been found out, not just in the UK, but in other places as well, like some Nordic countries, is that it's not as strong as they claim it is, you know? And on top of that as well, this claim that kids are going to top themselves if they don't get this is not backed up by evidence either. And that's another fucking dishonest, manipulative lie that's been pushed by pro-trans people. Do it or the kids will kill themselves. Turns out to not be true. So, no, you know, this is the thing for me. If you would think you're trans and you could take a pill that would make you feel comfortable with your actual gender, what do you think about that? Some trans activists will say that's bad and it's like a genocide of trans people. No, that would be great. That would be a wonder drug. That would be good. And it would mean people wouldn't need to go through these fucking processes and these fucking things, you know? So if there's a way for them to move away from that without having to go through the process, puberty blockers, hormone replacement therapy, surgery, then that should be pursued before you get to that stage, you know, when they're an adult, right? I mean, that seems totally reasonable to me. It's not conversion therapy. If you're, you know, just assessing using correct psychological guidelines to check actually what's going on, you know? It's like, you know, believe in the science and trust the doctors until it's, oh, maybe we should try something else other than endlessly affirming. Oh no, that's conversion therapy. Don't do that.
It's the thing is, like, I have friends that are trans. I have employees that are trans. Do you see how supercharged it is, though, now? If you go one grain against the narrative, you'll be labeled as an extreme. It's like, if I said people should be given the choice, if I was like saying, you know, I fully support it, I'd probably be labeled as like a, you know, pedo groomer sympathizer, right? But then if I go on the other end and I say maybe, you know, people should like wait and assess or maybe get like,
Yeah, when you've got a strong opinion on something, it's going to upset people. Yes, of course. I lost at least one viewer for what I said about the Muslim thing. I mean, that was a bit vitriolic. But, you know, some people are going to not like you because you got a strong take on something. And for some, that's going to mean they're not going to watch you anymore. That's the way of the world. I would get it. I would be more sympathetic to Pyrocynical if he was a tiny creator. Because I'm very sympathetic to people who are in that position when they're in these communities and they feel they can't fucking breathe without getting shit on. I'm very sympathetic to that, having gone through that. But he's got a massive audience. Like, say your shit. Speak your shit, King. Come on, say something about it.
You know, just see what happens, see if your brain...
Yes! Travolsky could not stand my comments and so left. Okay? Unfortunately. Tragic loss. Fortunately, there's plenty of other people that will come and say racist shit, so it's all good.
There's any changes in your brain, like what happened with me, then, you know, I'll probably instantly be labeled as like a disgusting turf transphobe.
Well, I don't think you would be a pedo sympathizer because it's got nothing to do with the sexual attraction to children.
Oh no, but you've seen the whole narrative like on Twitter right now, like especially with the Ava Tyson stuff. Like I've seen so many trans people that have came out and said like she has basically set the respect to trans people to like before the Big Bang. There's obviously a lot of people out there that have had contempt for trans people for a very long time, and they've now been able to let that loose on anyone and everyone that is trans. Like what Ava did is terrible. I'm not excusing it at all.
And I agree with that. I think that is the case, but then you've also got the case of other trans people defending Chris purely because they are trans.
I've never seen, I'll be honest, I've never seen a single person do that. I'm not saying you're lying, I just haven't.
What? Big Joel did exactly that. I argue with him about it. He's been strangely quiet on that topic ever since, I must say, since more stuff come out too. But yeah, I've literally talked to people, you know, like this who were saying this. I've seen it myself. This is crazy. Yes, there are 100% people that are instinctively defending Ava Christizer because they're trans, or at least were at first. I mean, I think it's died off a bit now.
And everyone that is trans. Like, what Ava did is terrible. I'm not excusing it at all.
And I agree with that. I think that is the case, but then you've also got the case of other trans people defending Chris purely because they are trans.
I've never seen, I'll be honest, I've never seen a single person do that. I'm not saying you're lying, I just haven't. The only person I've seen defend Ava was one of her mates or something, that lava guy. He's been like valiantly like just defending her constantly on like all fronts.
I think there was a whole subreddit, no surprise there, it's Reddit, that was trying to defend Chris purely based on the fact that they're trans.
I think we talked about this a little bit before.
Bro, the YouTube drama subreddit was utterly insane. It was nuts. It was totally crazy. I remember very, very early on, someone literally just posted an expose video, not even from the Prism guy, from Adrox, I think. Literally posted that video. And it got removed for transphobia. Yes. Or the person got a comment deleted because of transphobia or something. And literally all it was, the post got removed entirely. And all it was is just pointing out the things that they'd done. There was nothing transphobic about it. There was other examples of this early on. And I think when it was recognized that it was too big to sweep away, I think at that point they just ended up doing a mega thread about it. And that was that, you know? But this, unless this had been pushed and pushed and pushed, and people had spoken about this would have easily been swept away as another transphobic attack.
For the call, but
Okay,
it seems unfortunate that we're
money?
lumping all of
Hey! Androsky, thank you for the tip. Appreciate it. That's very generous. Thank you.
these different types of people, all these different personality types together into a movement or into a group. Like when LGBTQ plus every letter is being combined into this one movement, then you have someone like Chris who has, according to his own family, according to a story that he talked about on the podcast with Anthony Padilla, that his sister, according to Drama Alert, his sister came.
Oh, uh-oh. Is Pyro going to call out the misgenderinio?
Came out and confirmed and said that he came out to her as having been turned on by wearing her clothes, and that she called him a narcissist and says that he basically has autogynephilia. Now that term, obviously, this is very divisive because some people say, well, why?
Well, I've got to be honest with you, dude. I mean, it's very funny to bring this up in this conversation, don't get me wrong. But this doesn't really seem relevant to the matter at hand. This is where you're letting the trans stuff get in the way of just calling out the behavior for what it is. And if you just focused on what they did was bad, regardless of this other AGP style analysis, I think you'd be on a lot stronger ground. But I doubt Pyro is going to meaningfully challenge this. He's probably going to let this all slide, I bet.
Why should you label gender dysphoria, people with gender dysphoria, as having a paraphilia? Why are we bringing up at all that they would call it a sexual disorder when really the underlying condition is that they're uncomfortable with their gender identity? So of course, when they have sexual thoughts, they would be having thoughts as the opposite sex. Transvestitism involves clothing in the definition.
Right, the thing is in Nerd City is sometimes I'm like, yeah, okay, he's kind of based here, but he's got this tendency to kind of go off into the, into the weeds a bit. And I'm just like, okay, you're kind of losing me with this transvestitism. What's all this
about? Of course, when they have sexual thoughts, they would be having thoughts as the opposite sex. Transvestitism involves clothing in the definition, and then autogynephilia does not necessarily involve clothing. It's just thinking of yourself as the opposite sex turns you on. Now, Chris, according to his sister, and according to what sounds like his own testimony, had sexual fantasies of himself. Like maybe this was a fetish. This was a diagnosable fetish, right? Like this was autogynephilia. And so when you don't want to lump that in with gender dysphoria,
AGP,
because there are people who
AGP,
who it's not a fetish to them, who like they would not be turned on by the thought of wearing their sister's clothes, right? Like it would not involve a sexual thing in that moment. It would be like, oh, this feels right. It wouldn't be, this is really hot and I want to be perceived as a female and then have sex with a man, right? Like it's just, that's not what they would be. That's not the same thing, right? I think lumping all of these things together and then defending the people who have the strong like sexual interest in it, just the same as the people who are dysphoric, and thinking that it's the same, I think in the end it kind of does a disservice not only to the community but in educating the public, because then you have someone like Chris who is revealed to basically be degenerate, and then like it reflects on everybody else who just has dysphoria. You know, it's like they're not all the same.
Okay, but the problem is that's based on some post the sister made or something. I'm presuming that there's probably some diagnosis of dysphoria that Ava Chris Tyson has. So I think that, I'm guessing, I don't know 100%, but this just seems like, what if it turns out they've got this diagnosis of dysphoria and you've made this fucking argument? I mean, that's making it sound like maybe, just maybe. Why are you presuming that? Well, by my logic, more trans people are AGP, therefore you could, say what you do. Oh my god, okay, we're going to do this 10 more minutes, and then we're going to wrap things up today by showing you that movie that I keep talking about.
Same. And people will think that they are when a bad example comes out who has a completely different disorder. Like all trans people are obviously not pedophiles. The people who have autogynephilia and who are wearing no underwear underneath a dress and crossing their legs reading a book to children might be pedophiles, right? If that is what they want to do on a Saturday afternoon. Now, that is not the average gender dysphoric person. And the average trans person knows that the drag queens are not them. Like that's a different category of person. And
okay, he's being a bit, I think I kind of understand where he's coming from. I think I get it. I think what he's arguing against is the collapsing of all trans stuff into one term. And that everyone gets called trans now, even though previously we'd have more discernment to be like, you're a transvestite, you like dressing up as a woman and that turns you on. That's one category. You're a transsexual, you believe you're the opposite sex than what you were born as. That's one category. But now everything is trans, and even fetishists get cover from the trans stuff, right? Like you got some fucking fella wearing a dress saying they're trans, and you got to be like, oh, you're trans. No, you're fucking weird. Like, okay. It used to be that you could call that person a weirdo, but now you can't. You can't get away with that anymore. You got to accept them as a trans goddess, and that's that.
It's unfortunate because I think a lot of normies don't know the difference between this. If you're a normie editor and you're trying to throw together a video of pride, right? Like you're trying to make, like YouTube did for, we love pride, we celebrate pride. So they're trying to cut together a video to show that. They're going to lean so heavy on the cross-dressing because it's the most colorful thing. It's like human peacocks. There's feathers, there's whatever. It's the most visually, it's the most like...
Bro, I think even though he's gone around the houses a bit, I think he's spitting, I think.
Visually punch in the face thing. Normal looking gay guys who have a kid, like they're not going to look as visually exciting as that. So there's an overrepresentation of drag in the visuals for LGBTQ.
Yeah,
and drag has,
I think he's right about that.
A lot of sexual aspects to it. And I think normies are getting drag confused with gender dysphoria. And a lot of people who are into drag will tell you that they are not trans. They're like, no, I just do this on the weekends. It's something I like to do. It's a fetish for them. Like Pyro dressing up and experimenting in different, in his sister's clothes.
No, he never dressed up in his sister's clothes. He played with her toys.
Played with her toys. Okay, yeah, sorry. Yeah. Let me completely rephrase that.
I think you probably got confused because I have dressed up as a woman, like, on Instagram
sorry.
and stuff.
Let me not put that out there.
Yeah,
Pyro playing with his sister's toys did not have a sexual aspect to it. Right? Someone dressing up in the opposite clothes doesn't necessarily have a sexual aspect to it. For some people, it really does, and they would not even say that they are trans. So yeah, it's complicated, and we're pointing out all of the basically exceptions to the rule. And
you've probably got confused because I am actually a rancid pervert, just not like that.
And there are so many exceptions to the rule, and that's why I think it does a disservice to lump it all together, because then when one thing has a massive like scandal that makes a lot more sense to that personality type, everybody else unfortunately gets painted with that brush.
This is so true, actually. He actually cooked big time in the end. Oh, if I did the thing again. It used to be a cross-dresser was a cross-dresser, and a cross-dresser did some weird stuff, okay? And generally, I don't think that blew back quite as hard on like transsexuals who are a different thing. Yeah? But now, a cross-dresser does some wacky shit. All of a sudden, all trans people are on the hook for that. Even though it used to be, different categories of this. I think he's got a point.
If you think about it, like when you're that young, when you're like 10 or something, like your brain is just like, it's an open canvas, right? Like you can be influenced by like anything, like your parents, what you see. I mean, this is definitely why I think there's going to be a huge amount of people that are, you know, going to end up becoming like LGBTQ, because like that, like internet access is getting like younger and younger and younger. You know, because I remember like when I was growing up, it was like the family PC in the house that everyone used. You had like allotted hours and stuff. Sometimes I'd have like a mate round and we played
Did you look
scary...
up, like when you were 12, did you also look up like big boobies on Google? Like, were you...
I don't like remember. I probably didn't.
Really?
And if I did, I'd probably be fucking normal. So I wish I did that. I'd probably actually be normal.
To be fair, it's hard to think much worse of trans people than people did back in the day, like 20 years ago. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a fair point. Dude, I didn't realize when I was a kid and I watched that, when Lois Einhorn turns around, I thought that Lois Einhorn had shit themselves. I didn't know what it was, but now obviously I understand perfectly what's going on there. Okay. Oh, he found Captain Winky. Everyone's sick. Oh my God, Wesley with a very generous $70 Canadian super sticker. Holy shit. Hippo character wearing cool sunglasses come out of a treasure chest, tossing coins around him. Base, thank you for that. It's very generous. Okay. I think a long time ago, it was the idea of deception. Ace Ventura Pet Detective added to that stuff, as did like there's something about Miriam where they got a trans woman on a dating show and they didn't tell anyone and that all got fucked up. I watched a documentary about it. Very interesting. I would recommend. Okay. I think it was about the deception of it. I think once it was understood, it was like more of an oddity, but it was like you do you as an adult in your own bedroom, right? Yes, Mrs. Doubtfire too. That was an element of deception with that too. And there was like a period where I think there was kind of like more acceptance or progressing acceptance to that sort of thing. And it was like, oh, okay, so they're not all trying to trap us. Some of them I assume are good people. But then there was this rapid movement forward to, you know, and it was like leave the kids alone type mentality. And then kids got getting fucking roped into it. And then all of a sudden everyone's like, what the hell? How did we get here? And we're advocating for, you know, experimental treatment for kids that say they might be the opposite sex, right? And that, I think, is what made people go, hang on a minute. So I don't know, dude. I could be wrong about that. Maybe there wasn't this kind of Goldilocks zone that I'm thinking of. But I feel like there was a time when we moved away from the idea that they're all trying to trick us. Or the crying game is another example as well, right? But I feel like there was a time where it wasn't quite as bad. But it's ratcheted up recently because of the direction it's moved in. That's my rough guideline.
You're 100% right about the suggestibility thing. If you say to a kid of the age of 3, hey, there's a bunch of elephants in the closet. Don't open the closet. They will believe you and think there's elephants in the closet. Maybe for the rest of their life, they'll think there's elephants in closets.
That's
right?
literally the To Be Honest server. You can tell them anything, say anything, and they'll believe it. No proof is required.
What was the last lie? We had like 2.
Bro, that is true. My boys are 7 now, and you tell them the most outlandish thing you can think of, and for a second they'll believe you. I managed to convince one of them the other day that the closed circuit television on the bus is monitored all the time by the police, right? And if they misbehave, they'll get in trouble because they kept fighting and I kept asking them to stop and they just didn't listen to me. So eventually, last resort, I said that the police are going to come because of the camera. And they were like, oh, wait, no, we've got to stop. And it worked. It worked a treat. But then one of my boys got a bit too upset. So I had to kind of, you know, be like, okay, well, look, I'm sure it's not going to be a problem. Just behave and it'll be fine, you know? Settle down or you'll be arrested. You do lie to kids. Dude, my fucking idiot kids fell for this insane shit I told them. You won't believe this, guys. Well, yeah, when I said there was a monster outside, I thought it was very funny, but they were not impressed. That was a bit much. I shouldn't have said that, really. But, you know.
Two good ones.
Oh, I said
Colossal.
Nerd City was actually born a woman, and some people believed it.
You could lie about anything. It's so good.
We said that I'm Alex jacked it to Baby Yoda, and they believed it. Cut a little hole into a Baby Yoda plushie, and he fucked it. And people believed it.
And an hour earlier, you told them you were the best man at
Okay,
Keemstar's
anyway,
wedding.
guys,
Yep.
I think I've got what I wanted out of that. We got a good segment out of that in the end. And we got to talk about gender stuff. Which is probably the last gender combo, I think, before I go away. I can't bear any more gender stuff in the next few days.